We are basically just land creatures.
Right. Very
Like,
good.
our domain ends entirely right where the shoreline drops off. You stand on the edge of a massive dark lake, looking out at that glassy surface reflecting the sky. And, I mean, your brain inevitably asks one primal question.
What is happening down there in the dark?
Exactly. What is down there? So today we are stepping right off that ledge into the deep water. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are traveling up north to Lake Memphremagog.
Which is just a gorgeous area, by the way.
Whoa, absolutely stunning. So our source material today is this really dense, fascinating audio excerpts from a show called Echoes of the Alpine. Specifically, we're looking at their Lake Monsters episode.
Right, which details a lot of the local lore and cryptid history up there.
Yeah, and okay, let's unpack this. Because Lake Memphremagog isn't just a pond. It is a massive, incredibly deep glacial trench stretching from Newport, Vermont, straight across the border into Quebec.
It's huge.
And we're looking at a localized anomaly that has been lurking in these northern waters for, well, over a century. A phenomenon locals call Memphem.
Memphremagog.
But our mission today isn't just to, swap ghost stories around a campfire. We are actually analyzing why this legend has endured for over a century, what witnesses claim to have seen, and how it connects to the broader geography of these northern lakes.
Because you really cannot separate an anomalous event from the environment that supposedly contains it.
Right. The setting matters.
It matters entirely. To understand a phenomenon like Memphrem, you first have to deeply understand the hydrography and the geology of Lake Memphremagog itself. The physical environment dictates the bounds of reality for any potential ecosystem.
Basically, the stage dictates the play, and the stage here is, frankly, it's intense.
Very.
We are talking about a lake that plunges to depths of over 300 feet in places. It's this glacial scar that's completely full of hidden coves, sheer drop-offs, complex underwater topography.
It's not a flat bottom.
Not at all. I mean, think of the lake's geography like a massive, sprawling underwater mansion. You've got these 300-foot ceilings, right? And countless hidden rooms or coves. It is the perfect architectural blueprint for something massive to live completely undetected.
And what's fascinating here is the psychology of that depth.
Yeah.
That immense volume triggers a very specific psychological response in us.
Oh, like the fear of deep water.
Exactly, thalassophobia. We talk about it often, but we rarely talk about the mechanics of why it happens.
Yeah.
The brain is essentially this logical engine, right? It's constantly trying to calculate probabilities based on visual input.
So it's looking for threats.
Always.
Yeah.
So when you look at a shallow, clear pond, your brain calculates the probability of a massive, unknown apex predator hiding there as zero. You can see the bottom.
Right, the math is simple.
Math is simple, but that equation changes completely when you introduce a 300-foot plunge into freezing darkness.
Because your brain completely loses the visual data, it needs to definitively rule a threat out.
Precisely. The probability calculation shifts from zero to non-zero. The physical reality of those hidden underwater features gives the human mind, basically, permission to believe.
Wow, permission to believe. I like that.
Yeah, the sheer volume of unexplored deep water naturally breeds an expectation that it must hold secrets. Human nature just rushes in to fill that psychological void with a monster.
That sets up the psychology perfectly. But we aren't just dealing with a vague modern sense of dread here, are we?
No, we have specific accounts.
Right. The descriptions of the creature utilizing these 300-foot drop-offs are remarkably specific, and they have been for a very long time. We're talking about a serpent-like creature, usually estimated to be 20 to 30 feet long or even more.
Massive.
Yeah, and observers consistently note these distinct humps breaking the surface of the water, a snake-like head, and this is key, incredibly fast movement that leaves a massive wake behind it.
And those historical accounts are really foundational to analyzing this whole thing. The Echoes of the Alpine source mentions this early 1800s account from a settler.
Oh, right, the one in the canoe.
Exactly. They witnessed something massive, creating a huge wake near the shore. And they explicitly noted it wasn't a boat, and it wasn't drifting debris. They described a living, powerful, long entity moving deliberately through the water.
Okay, but wait, let's look at that 1800s account realistically for a second.
Sure.
You have a settler out in a canoe, in a remote, hostile environment. They are already operating in a hyper-vigilant survival state.
Their sympathetic nervous system is primed, yeah.
Right. So why couldn't that quote-unquote monster just be the result of the lake's complex fluid dynamics? I mean, deep, cold water lakes are notorious for seiche waves.
They are, yes.
If wind pushes water to one end of the basin and then stops, the water basically sloshes back beneath the surface. It's a massive, invisible underwater wave.
Very powerful kinetic energy.
Exactly. And that energy can dislodge a giant sunken pine tree from the bottom and propel it violently to the surface, pushing it upstream against the visible current.
Which looks very strange.
Yeah, to a hyper-vigilant observer a century and a half ago, a massive dark log suddenly surging against the current looks exactly like a powerful living creature. So how do researchers definitively rule out a purely mechanical event like that?
Well, this raises an important question about the consistency of human observation over time. Because, yes, human perception is incredibly fallible, especially under stress. And you also have to factor in thermal inversions.
What's that, like optical illusions?
Basically, yes. When cold air sits over warmer water, it creates a layer of refraction. It acts like a funhouse mirror. That refraction can bend light, taking a perfectly normal surface wave or a piece of driftwood and optically stretching it vertically into a towering, distorted hump.
So the mechanics of the lake itself can literally manufacture a monster. It creates the wave, and the atmosphere distorts the image.
It absolutely can, and if we were looking at a single settler's account from the 1800s, it would be analytical malpractice not to dismiss it as a seiche wave compounded by an illusion.
But there are more accounts.
Right, you have to look at the whole data set. If these sightings were purely random sea waves and shifting atmospheric refraction, the observational data over a century would be incredibly noisy and chaotic.
Yeah.
People would describe wildly different things.
Wait. Based on whatever random debris popped up that day? But the data isn't noisy. That's the wild part. The descriptions are shockingly uniform.
Exactly. Locals have reported the exact same biological characteristics for over 100 years. The 20 to 30-foot length, the serpentine movement, the snake-like head. We are dealing with a shared visual vocabulary that spans generations.
Yeah, the source mentioned that 20th century couple who had an encounter while out boating, and it literally left them, quote, speechless for days.
Speechless for days implies a profound level of cognitive dissonance. That isn't just seeing a weird wave and being confused.
No, that is your brain receiving sensory input that entirely shatters your accepted framework of biological reality.
Your neurological hard drive essentially crashes. The consistency demands serious attention.
Okay, well, here's where it gets really interesting. Because Memphren does not exist in an isolated vacuum, we have to expand our geographical lens.
Yes, looking at the neighboring regions.
Right. If we accept that a massive biological anomaly could survive in Memphremagog, we immediately have to look 40 miles west to Lake Champlain. Because the exact same biological anomaly is reportedly happening there.
The creature they call Champ.
Exactly, Champ. And researchers looking at the striking similarities between Mempher and Champ have posited two distinct theories to explain this. Are we dealing with a cryptid commuter system or a localized family tree?
Right, the macro theories.
So theory one is the cryptid commuter system. Researchers have hypothesized that these massive northern lakes might be connected by subterranean waterways. So we aren't looking at two separate populations, but a single creature, or maybe a small pod, literally using underwater highways to commute between Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog.
Like an underwater pressurized subway tunnel.
Yes, allowing a massive predator to traverse the region entirely undetected.
Now, from a geological standpoint, karst topography landscapes formed from dissolving limestone can create massive underground cave systems.
Okay, so the tunnels could exist.
They could. But the biological mechanics required for a creature to utilize an underwater subway between these specific lakes are staggering. It's navigating zero-light environments, dealing with immense pressure differentials.
Right. It would need highly specialized adaptations, like an incredibly robust swim bladder or some form of non-visual navigation, like electroreception.
Which leads us to the second, and arguably more biologically sound, framework. The localized family tree. The biological cousins theory.
Ah, okay. Different evolutionary paths.
Right. This theory suggests that different lakes provided the perfect evolutionary isolation for distinct populations of the same ancient creature to develop independently. They are cousins in the same family of lake mysteries.
And that makes so much sense when you look at the region's history. 10,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, this entire area was inundated by the Champlain Sea.
Yeah.
As the Laurentide ice sheet retreated, the land rebounded and cut off access to the ocean. Marine populations were suddenly landlocked in these deep, cold, freshwater basins.
And we see that biological reality today with relic populations of marine life like certain species of smelt, that adapted to freshwater after being trapped.
So the biological cousins theory just scales that up to an apex predator.
Yes. It shifts the narrative from a supernatural monster to a highly adapted relict species of evolutionary biology.
But, whether we are dealing with a cryptid commuter or an evolutionary cousin, both theories rely on a powerful idea mentioned in the source material.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that idea is that these big northern lakes still hold secrets from another time.
Secrets from another time. I love that phrasing.
It really unpacks the human desire for a world that isn't fully mapped or tamed yet. We exist in an era of absolute categorization. We have satellite imagery, we've mapped the human genome, the blank spots on the map have been aggressively filled in.
Right, and now we are realizing how sterile a fully illuminated world feels.
We crave an unmapped world. Beneath the surface of a 300-foot deep freezing northern lake, our dominion abruptly ends. We desperately want the world to still hold secrets from another time. It makes our environment feel larger and vastly more profound.
We still want the edge of the map to say, here be dragons.
Precisely.
And that transition from the intense survival fear of the 1800s settler to our modern psychological desire for a mysterious world brings us to how this legend functions today. How does this century-old legend impact people visiting the lake right now?
Well, it has evolved into a highly pragmatic economic driver, ecotourism.
Monster hunting as a modern ecotourism draw.
Exactly. The narrative has been repurposed.
The source mentions that visitors to places like the Alpine Homestead are actually encouraged to take a scenic drive, pack their binoculars, and look for Mem for themselves. It's pitched as this perfect mix of wonder and a little chill to add to a simple boating trip.
Wonder and a little chill.
Right. And I want to ask you, the listener, a direct question. Put yourself in that scenario. So what does this all mean for you? If you were out paddling in a kayak on this dead, quiet, deep water, and suddenly a 30-foot dark shape violently appeared off your bow, what would you actually do?
It's a great thought experiment.
Would you calmly reach for your binoculars with a sense of wonder? Or would that, quote, little chill instantly turn into sheer, visceral panic?
See, that marketing perspective, the wonder and a little chill, that is the luxury of the shoreline talking. It's the safety of the dock.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Because most people vastly underestimate the psychological impact of encountering the truly anomalous. The value of the Memphremagog legend isn't just improving the creature exists, it's how the possibility of the creature changes human behavior.
It makes us pay closer attention.
Exactly. If you go out on a lake believing it is fully mapped and safe, your attention is passive.
Yeah.
You look at your phone, you chat with friends, the lake is just a backdrop.
But the moment you are told to pack binoculars because a 30-foot serpent might surface, your engagement fundamentally shifts.
It forces active observation.
Yeah.
We stop looking at screens and start reading the water. We notice the ripples, the surface tension. The legend acts as a psychological tether, connecting us to the natural environment with a level of hyper-awareness.
It's essentially an attentional hack. It tricks modern humans into actually observing the wildness of nature again. It demands our presence.
It truly does.
Well, we have mapped out a massive amount of territory today. Let's recap. We started by dissecting the physical stage for this mystery lake Memphremagog, a massive 300-foot deep lake whose sheer volume naturally breeds thalassophobia.
The perfect environment for a mystery.
Right. We analyzed centuries of consistent, shared visual vocabulary, the serpentine shape, the huge wakes, which points to a persistent phenomenon that demands serious analysis.
Even with ice waves and optical illusion.
Exactly. Then we debated the fascinating biological theories linking Memphrey to Champ, whether they are utilizing a pressurized commuter system or if they are relict biological cousins trapped since the Ice Age.
Both incredibly compelling frameworks.
And finally, we looked at how this ancient dread has evolved into modern wonder, using the legend to transform a simple scenic drive into a thrilling, hyper-aware expedition.
It really is a remarkable evolution from raw survival instincts to the modern pursuit of mystery. And as we conclude our analysis today, I want to leave the listener with a final thought to mull over, something that builds entirely on that concept of these lakes holding secrets from another time.
Ooh, all right. Lay it on us.
Well, consider the trajectory of our technology. If researchers eventually find a way to definitively map every single inch of those connected waterways using autonomous submersibles, or if someone finally captures undeniable 4K video of Memphrey, classifying its biology and removing all doubt.
Right, the ultimate proof.
If we got that proof, would we actually be happy? Because the moment the creature is definitively proven, it gets a Latin name, it goes in a textbook, and it is entirely stripped of its mystery. So, does the true magic of these northern lakes rely entirely on the fact that the monster remains a secret? Is the mystery itself more valuable to our human experience than the actual monster?
If we catch the monster, we kill the magic. That is, yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that all week. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today and stepping off the ledge with us. Next time you find yourself near the dark edge of a deep lake, keep your eyes on the ripples. You really never know what is down there in the dark.